So cute last week.
Do you remember your very first job? The feeling of running to the bank to cash your first paycheck. The feeling of blowing your entire paycheck on something that you just had to have. The feeling of accomplishment after a long and tiring work day. Well, unfortunately, for some young teenage girls, these experiences are not as pleasant. And for me, my very first job was anything but pleasant. I worked at Subway my sophomore year of high school, and I thought that it would be an easy way to earn some extra cash. I never expected that making sandwiches entailed dealing with a perverted boss on a daily basis. My male employer would constantly make sexual comments about my appearance and body. I tried to ignore it at first, but the comments kept coming. There were even times when he would stand behind me and watch me get supplies out of the freezer. I was young and complacent, and I didn't know what I could do at the age of 16. So I just decided to give up and quit my job. I never saw my employer again, and I remained silent about the harassment. My voice was gone, and I felt powerless, like there was nothing I could do. As reported in PBS's 2009 Now report on sexual harassment, many young teenage girls don't know enough about what sexual harassment is. Sexual harassment is the poisonous gas that penetrates the environment of the workplace and makes it hostile to female employees. It slowly surrounds and suffocates its vulnerable victims, rendering them voiceless and powerless among its foul fumes. It becomes harder to breathe, harder to think, and harder to speak. Male employers constantly exert their power in the workforce to take advantage of women of all ages. The victim's voice is perilous as the gas permeates her lungs, and she's unable to report complaints because of fear. Fear of losing her job, fear of not being believed, fear of humiliation or embarrassment, and fear that nothing will be done about the harassment. The gas will contaminate everything that she values: her career, her self-esteem, her pride, her dignity, her power, and most importantly, her sense of self-worth. We cannot allow this toxic gas to spread and conceal the voices of the 72 million women ages 16 and above who comprise 59.5% of the US workforce. We cannot allow this poisonous gas to contaminate every element of the victim's life. We cannot allow more than half of the US workforce to live in fear of sexual harassment and its detrimental effects. Many people will argue, what problem? These people are wearing gas masks. They're aware of incidences of sexual harassment, yet they keep their masks on and refuse to take action. As long as they continue to reassure themselves that the boss's behavior is normal, then there is no problem. But if there is no problem, then why are 15,000 sexual harassment cases brought before the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission each year? If there is no problem, then why did women file 85% of all sexual harassment claims in 2009? The legal definition of sexual harassment is any unwelcome verbal, visual, or physical conduct of a sexual nature that creates a hostile work environment. Title IX of the 1964 Civil Rights Act gives every employee to work in an environment free of ridicule, insult, and intimidation. Sexual harassment is a form of sex discrimination that creates a hostile work environment and thus falls under this provision. But although sexual harassment is considered a form of sex discrimination under Title VII, there is still no specific legislation outlawing it in the workplace. The current law does not prohibit simple teasing, less serious, isolated, offhand comments, or other less serious incidents. The government must step in and outlaw all forms of sexual harassment in the workplace. Women have tolerated sexual harassment and physical comments in the workplace for far too long, and they have grown tired of inhaling its toxic fumes. So yes, a law is a necessary step to show people the seriousness of the issue, but it's not the only solution. We must educate and we must enforce. We must educate young girls that sexual harassment is not normal in the workplace. We must educate young girls that it is not okay to have your boss constantly make comments about your appearance. And we must educate young girls that it is not okay to remain silent about the harassment. According to the American Association of University Women, 9 in 10 middle school students, that's roughly 85%, report that students in their school harass each other. Elementary and middle school students must have programs that inform young girls and boys about the facts and myths of sexual harassment. Empowering and educating the youth about these intolerable acts will better prepare them for a future in the workforce, a future free of the sufferable stench of sexual harassment. Along with educating the youth, companies must also take steps to implement sexual harassment prevention programs. Although currently 62% of companies now offer sexual harassment programs, that percentage must be higher. It is essential for all companies, not just 62% of them, to offer programs in order to show the seriousness of the issue. Male employees and employers must know that sexual harassment is not a compliment, it's not innocent, and it's not legal. And as AU students, what can you do to help fight sexual harassment in the workplace? Well, the EEOC headquarters are actually stationed right here in Washington, D.C. So you have a first-hand opportunity to fight against these work environments. The EEOC offers no-cost outreach and education programs in which representatives are available to make presentations and participate in meetings with employers and employees, along with the general public. I think that the first step to combating workplace sexual harassment is making it more aware. I know that Women's Initiative does a lot with sexual harassment on campus, but it must also be addressed in the workplace. As AU students, we must take action and join forces with the EEOC to combat and extinguish this poisonous gas that pervades the workplace. So now, I want you to imagine your younger sister, or your female friend, or your family member growing up in an environment and being a victim of sexual harassment. Not only does she have to complete her daily office work, but she also has to bear the habitual taunts and sexual comments from her male employer. She didn't have the opportunity to be educated at a young age about sexual harassment, and her company is one of the remaining 32% that does not offer a training program. She goes to work every day, suffocating from the putrid, poisonous gases of sexual harassment that overwhelm the work environment. Now imagine instead that this same girl was educated about sexual harassment at a young age. She is empowered and she knows that it is not tolerable in the work environment. The air is free of the foul fumes of sexual harassment, and she is finally able to breathe. By increasing awareness through education, we can make this a reality for many young girls. We can help them breathe.